this week I wrote about Colorado recruiting, which, Chris, looks a little bit more normal than it has in quite some time.
How about that?
Yeah, interesting. Basically, I'm writing about the fact that you look at Colorado's recruiting class, and in year one, everybody, I mean, depending on who you were, was mad or freaked out about, that first class. You bring in 73 new players, 52 transfers, 21 high schoolers. And then last year, 43 transfers and 12 high school players. This year, it's 17 transfers and 14 high school players. That tells me they feel a little bit better about the foundation of the program. That's a pretty normal class in 2025. Deion still not traveling. The coaches that I talked to didn't seem to think that it mattered all that much, and it does draw people to Boulder. I'm curious. I don't know how much we've talked about this, Damien, but when you look at having a head coach, if your head coach said, "I don't come to see you," now granted, your head coach would be Deion Sanders in this case, and whoever you grew up idolizing, if he said, "I'm not coming to visit you, you got to come here to visit me," what would that do for your perception of that program? Would that matter to you if you're a 17, 18-year-old kid?
It would give me an impression that if I wanted to come to Colorado, I better get in where I fit in, because Prime obviously doesn't want to go to you and try to convince you that you need to come here. It's almost like you need to go to Colorado and try to prove that you fit their culture, you fit that foundation that they're starting to build, and you can be a piece of their puzzle that can help take them to the next level. So I wouldn't have a problem with it personally. Like, hell, if Nick Saban had called me and told me that he was never coming to Richmond, Kentucky, but I still had an offer to Alabama, I would have thought of it all the same. It was just a cool added factor whenever he would come sit in your living room or come to your high school, and then all the kids are like, "Oh shit, Nick Saban's in the front office with the principal." Like, all that shit was cool. But at the end of the day, I would just look at it as a challenge. Like, if this is really where I want to go, I'm gonna have to be all in or all out. Like, there's no half stepping. Like, there's not gonna be any, I go in there and test the water, because you'll be out the door quicker than you came in. So that's my thought on it.
They've got the Big 12's number 2 class behind Texas Tech. It's a weird coaching staff. He's leaned into the NFL aspect of it, and they've got a lot of guys that just don't have a ton of coaching experience. Marshall Faulk joined the staff. Warren Sapp got promoted. He's on staff there. They have 2 coordinators who have spent, basically just last season in college football. They've got a lot of pro background. It's a weird staff, and a pretty marked departure from year one, where they had a much more traditional kind of college-based staff. Chris, when you look at the totality of all of these things, with what happened last year and losing guys and picking up guys, what do you make of Colorado from 30,000 foot and the future of this program, where Deion is the only Sanders that's in the team facility, other than, I guess, Deion Jr. capturing it all with his camera?
It feels, I guess the best way to put it is kind of where you wrote it, which is it's normal now, other than Deion not going out on the road. But this is what a normal class recruit to transfer ratio is at a lot of schools now. And as Bill Connolly mentioned on our pod last week, most of those transfers are seniors. So they are trying to build the foundation of this team with some high school kids. I think you said they had, 6 4-star kids in this class?
6 4-stars. 4 of those guys, by the way, jumped in the boat after the midpoint of the season, when they won 7 of 8 games, after the Nebraska debacle, when they kind of put things back together and righted the ship. And, we're not that far from making the playoff.
Yeah. I would just say, I think there's a quote in your story from Deion where he says, if he went, it would cause too much of a ruckus and a storm. So he's doing people a favor by not coming, essentially, is how I don't agree with that, because I went and covered a game when he was the OC at Trinity Christian here in Dallas, and he was just out there on the high school football field, and he's still Deion Sanders, and he's not constantly getting mobbed by everybody all the time. There is a bit of a respect there. And I have to imagine Nick Saban was a pretty popular guy whenever he went there. Bill Belichick is even out on the road recruiting now, which is good to see. So I don't know if I buy Deion's reason for not going, but he's starting to get some pretty good results. So it's working.
Mm-hmm. I think my only question is, are you maximizing your potential if you're not going out on the road? And I get the draw.
I don't think you are.
sort of. I agree with you. I think that they're doing fine and they're having some success on the field, on the recruiting trail. But to me, it comes back to that question. Are you maximizing your potential if you're not going out on the road? And I have a hard time getting to yes. I really do. I think things are going well. And like I said, I think you're doing okay. But to me, it just comes back to that, in that there's so many coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, coordinators in the sport that would walk over broken glass, kill themselves to just do anything to gain any little edge. And sometimes it just feels like Deion is not willing to do that. And that to me is where the whole thing still, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, look,
so anyway,
he's gotten a couple of 5-star guys. He got Travis Hunter by having kind of a relationship with him. And like, he can pull in the big fish. And you just think about it, like, yeah, 6 4-stars. Imagine if the effort was put in and those guys became 5 stars, those types of guys. So I agree with you.